Hi everybody, this is Big Luca coming to you from the address downtown in Dubai. I'm here for a couple of days. As you guys know, I live in Dubai. I live in a 5-star hotel, but sometimes I go to other hotels just for fun. So this video, I would like to explain to you how this year I'm probably gonna be $1 million plus over last year. And this was all achieved by selling high ticket information. So this video is really to help people that are looking at selling high ticket information and are looking at getting some information about how to sell high ticket information from somebody that actually makes money by selling information. So again, this year I'm gonna be making more than $1 million more than I did last year, and last year it was a very profitable year for me. Let's actually step on the balcony. So how am I doing this? So I'll give you a few advice. First of all, guys, you gotta increase your prices, okay? I see a lot of people selling information and just underselling themselves and being very, very stupid about that. And one advice I can give you about price, I can actually see the pool down here. This is called Al Manzil. One advice I can give you about price is go ahead and buy something for the price you would like to sell your services at. I'm gonna repeat that. Go ahead and buy something at the price you would like to sell your services at. So your information. There is a strong correlation between the money that you have ever spent, the maximum amount of money you have ever spent in purchasing, for example, a video course or a consulting session, and the amount of money you feel confident charging people for your information. I'll give you an example. Very recently, one of my students picked up mentorship for $10,000 an hour with a very famous person in the high ticket information space. And by the way, he did that not just for the information, because he said, well, Big Luca, that guy doesn't have anything to teach you, but right now that guy charges way more than me. And but he did that to change his paradigm. He was like, listen, I'm gonna go for 10 grand an hour in order to prove to myself then it is possible to charge people 10 grand an hour. And I was like, listen, you go ahead, I don't mind that. And you received a lot of, I believe, misleading information about how charging $3,000 an hour is considered low ticket. And I was like, listen, it's just telling that to you to kind of prove to you that he's the big guy, but it's BS, okay? But nevertheless, and ever since he bought a mentorship session for 1 hour, okay, for $10,000, he now feels much more confident in charging his clients more. Now, my clients, range between normal people and are also public companies, okay? I have consulted with one public company now, up until this point, and they pretty much all have the same problem if they sell information. So whether you are somebody that is looking at consulting people by the hour, which by the way I don't advise you to do, whether you're looking at creating a video course, whether you're looking at creating both, whether you're consulting top Fortune 500, Fortune 100, top 5, top 10, the Facebook, the Google, or whether you're selling information about diets, about everything, pretty much everybody's got the same issues. And one of the issues is that people that run those companies, even if they're big conglomerates of information selling, and or your normal person, either way, it is possible that people that run the companies or people that try to sell information have never bought that information for a high price. And so there's kind of, everybody copies each other. So one thing, and that's the second point that you shouldn't do, is to copy other people. Whether the issue of marketing is really to increase your margins. Everything you do should be geared towards increasing your margins. And in order to increase your margins, you will at some point have to increase the price. Even because if you never increase your price, you're never perceived as a premium option. And if you're not perceived as a premium option, you're too vulnerable to problems in the market, fluctuation, competitors. It's a really nasty place in which you don't want to be at, which is another reason you don't want to charge by the hour. You don't want to be perceived as an interchangeable commodity. The third point is don't charge by the hour, by the way. So, for example, you have a course which is psychological warfare, which is now being translated into the Italian language, which is my mother tongue. And what the course does, the unique selling proposition, the course payoff, if you will, is I will teach you how to charge $1,000 an hour without charging by the hour. So you really have to get out of the one-on-one, especially. I don't want to even mention the done-for-you service, okay? The done-for-you service is just a great way to start and to get, a few a few $100 really in, or a few thousand, and then it's a model that you have to abandon, okay? If you use that model, it's never going to work for you. You cannot scale. You can get some experiences, some exposure, and if you've never made any money, when you see the £1,000 or the $1,000 or the €1,000 coming into your PayPal account, it's quite a magical moment. I mean, really, something actually shifts inside of you, but then you're going to have to resort to much more scalable business models. So if you continuously charge by the hour, unless, again, you find a way to maybe charge people $10,000, but even there, you have one client a day. If you make 10 grand a day with very little cost, even if you pay a lot of taxes, you got maybe a net profit of 5 grand a day. And if you carry on like that for a lot of years, you can accumulate enough wealth, even if you invest it or just stash money to actually, quote unquote, retire, even if I don't actually agree with that term. But the reality is that if you charge a normal, even a very high, for example, I now charge $2,000, which is now being bumped up to $3,000 an hour for the first strategic consulting session. I don't charge by the hour as such, but there is the first barrier of entry for the consulting that I have, which is a way to get to know the client. I don't work with all the clients. I don't work with all the students. By the way, I call them all students because, I consider myself a teacher. I teach. And it's not like if you pay, like you cannot actually book me for 4 hours. I'm not a whore, okay? But the first hour is fine. We can meet. I'll meet with pretty much everybody, although sometimes I turn people away because they write to me. Well, actually not to me, but to my assistant. But then my assistant forwards emails to me in a way which I don't like, which underlines that you're an idiot or that you think I'm a whore, which I'm not. So there is this time per money kind of relationship in that hour. But then after that is all a tailored package, okay? So it depends what you need. You want me to do an whole marketing plan for your multi-billion-dollar company? You want me to help you in packaging your video course? But what is it that you would like me to help you with, right? And then I will see whether I have time to help you, whether I want to help you, whether it makes sense for me to help you. Sometimes people come to me with all sorts of crazy stuff, and I'm like, listen, you cannot work. I'm sorry. That happens more than you think, by the way. And so you have to get out of that. So unless you can actually charge people by the hour upfront, money first, by the way, first money, and then you consult with people and charge 10 grand an hour, which is pretty much impossible for the majority of people. $10,000 is a lot. You're not going to get wealthy by exchanging your time for money in an hour to hour situation, hour for money situation. So you have to find a way to transcend and to go beyond the pure exchange of money per time and time for money, or value even for money. You have to get to a place in which you're asking for money in a way which guarantees you an unreasonable leverage on people, and unreasonable leverage on the situation, even in terms of how much time you have to dedicate to the clients in order to get the amount of money that you need to get. Now, this may sound complicated, but there is a lot of hang-ups about money. So people, when they get into consulting, into selling information, even courses, they say, well, listen, okay, Big Luca, I will sell my video course for two grand, but then of course I have to offer a lot of assistance, a lot of help. I will do 2 private Facebook groups and 3 webinars a week, because they don't feel confident about charging that. So they will charge that, but then they will basically kill themselves by giving them so much content in order in their mind to justify the price that they made, that it doesn't even matter anymore. Because, for example, the price point is usually $1,997. Is a really clever, very high ticket and very, strategic price point, because if you only make 1 sale a day, you're on 60 grand a month already. You make 2 sales a day, you're 120 grand a month. Okay, can you see the ease? So you don't need as many leads, you don't need to spend as much with traffic. If people enter, your kind of plan at your word for 2Ks, it's very easy to upsell them for 5Ks, and then it's 5 more Ks. So it's very easy to kind of snowball from there. But that stands on the assumption that you're selling a standalone course. It may be a very detailed, in-depth video course, maybe with a Facebook group, maybe not. Managing communities is a very tough job, but it makes no sense to sell at 2 grand if then it turns into an inner circle, which you should charge 30 grand for. And by the way, the inner circles don't have that much content. So, you know, you want to create, oh my God, I'm charging $2,000. I don't think I'm qualified to do that, which by the way is the other problem. People always think they have to be qualified. And so let me give 2 webinars for free to my community. Let me give them everything. Let's add. It won't matter. Okay, enough is enough. You gotta have a standalone video course, by the way, but I believe is the 5th point or whatever. In order to go beyond. Again, I have a whole bunch of ideas. I'm just trying to briefly, you can see these videos non-scripted, briefly summarize what I do and what I teach my students in both the European and the US market, which by the way, you know, I have students in both continents. And so you gotta have a video course, you gotta have something, you gotta have a newsletter, you gotta have something which you can make money off, quote unquote, I don't like the term, but on autopilot. So it doesn't require as much intervention from your part, and you don't exchange your time for that. Okay, so once you create it, you have to create a sale asset. Okay, a sale asset. Something that, you know, you can sell without you being there. And I can tell you that intellectually everybody knows it, and we're like, oh yes, I can create a course, I can create, but then everybody kind of says, oh, you know, Big Luke, I've created a consulting one-on-one thing, and I was like, you're exchanging your time for money. That's okay when you do that, maybe at first to get some money, or when you do that later as a kind of an addition to things. So you do some strategic consulting sessions, for example, I get $2,000 an hour, and now I will be getting $3,000 an hour, just to meet people that then maybe I will charge $50,000 or $100,000 or $150,000 for a strategic thing, or maybe $1 million. I don't know. I mean, it depends on what they want. So it makes sense for me to have my, I don't know, $3,000 a day, $5,000 a day, $10,000 a day of courses, and then on top of that, I make $3,000 every. I don't know. Maybe I may consult. What's my average? Like 4 clients a month. I don't really do that much, because then, you know, pretty much out of those clients, a lot of other consulting, very high profile contracts come. So, you know, if I do a $300,000 consulting thing, which I have to exchange my time for money, that makes sense. But if that's the only thing I get, it's not. For example, again, this year is going to be a quite profitable year for me. 2019 will be even more profitable. But let's suppose I want to make $1 million, which this year I will make much more than that. Is it okay to make $1 million by exchanging your time for money? To me, it's nonsensical, because you can achieve $1 million just with courses and things that can be bought without you exchanging your time for money. But then you can make $2 million if you add things for which you exchange your time for money on top of things that you don't need to exchange your time for, but that can be bought anyway. So if you can wrap your head around this fact, it actually becomes much more profitable for you. And the bad news, what's the bad news? The bad news is that if you don't follow, you know, this advice, there's more than one way to be right within what works framework. A lot of people think, you know, you can do A, B, C, D, or G to be right. Well, actually, it turns out that you can't. Within the framework of what works, there are ways to do things. There is, you know, there's wiggle room, there is ways, there is leeway, there is latitude, there are things to play with within a framework that works. Again, you exchange your time for money, you don't charge as much, you cannot create assets that can be bought without you being at your computer. You're not going to make millions from selling information. It's just the reality of it. Nobody makes millions by selling $49 courses. It's BS. So you hear a lot of nonsense. Oh yes, you can sell $49 courses, and then yeah, sure, whatever. Those guys are broke, so don't listen to them. And so it's really it. I hope you appreciated this video. By the way, a lot of people, I used to be involved in the Kindle publishing community with whatever. And a lot of people are writing to me right now. There seems to be a change. Guess what? From CreateSpace to KDP or whatever that is. And guys, I'm not involved in that, so I will not advise you on what to do. You have to stop writing to me. I'm not involved with that thing anymore. I hope you have fun. So you will have to ask the information to the guys that copied my the gurus whose opinions you highly value, whatever gurus I'm referring to. So please ask them. Don't annoy me any further. And yeah, about high ticket information, that's about it. I mean, video courses, you have consulting, and go ahead and actually buy something which is expensive from somebody else. I buy all sorts of courses, like take all sorts of consulting sessions, And another way is that there is a way to, another thing is that there is a way to charge high prices in pretty much any niche for which there is a demand. And the more unreasonable the demand is, the more you can charge. So a lot of people feel very uncomfortable about charging high prices because they say, well, my competitors are not doing that. Your competitors are broke. You have to remember the majority of people are always broke in any environment, in any field. It doesn't matter how good the story sounds, especially in certain, I'm involved in the how to make money online kind of niche. That's the overall niche. And I can tell you categorically that is not as good as it sounds. All these gurus pretending to be rich. You got broke people teaching broke people how to get rich. You got it all. There's a lot of gullibility, so people spend their money. And don't follow. One thing that you actually have to learn, and I've learned this year, and that has become abundantly clear to me, is that you gotta be different. You gotta do things differently. Don't follow the lead of everybody. Everybody is broke, guys. Everybody sucks. It's amazing to me people don't get it. But they're not charging as much. They are broke. When you say 99% of people are broke, these are the 99%. Look at them. There is them, and then there is you. If I had followed the lead from people that I highly valued, I used to value. It's amazing to me looking back. I used to listen to certain people, and I'm like, whoa. Then, fortunately enough, I had met early on people that actually helped me. And I was kind of able to tell. But at the beginning, the problem with getting the wrong information at the beginning is that it's very hard to get out of it. Because after a while it becomes your reality. So I know people that have been charging low tickets forever, and they're like, listen, I cannot get myself to sell something for $1,000 or for $10,000. They're like, I cannot do it. And I'm like, all you have to do is to bump up the price and to have a position, and to have a marketing strategy that kind of sustains that. But it's possible. There are all sorts of people. There are people selling boot camps for $10,000 pretty much any niche, provided you're perceived as different. The value doesn't have to, and that's the thing. People don't really, and I am learning that in the European market as well. I've learned my lesson first in the US market as well. I am learning my lesson. I have, with certain things that I will not mention, but people don't really care about results. People don't stick with you because of results. People will divorce you and will go around and actually talk BS about you, even if you've made them millions, even if you have made them repay loans, even if you made them a lot of money. They will actually go to somebody else and claim they made them money. They will, they will purposely learn from people that they know they're making less money. They will purposely and willingly go to people that they know they cannot help them, but maybe they smile more. They will. That's just what happens. In the Italian market is the same thing. In the US market is the same thing. So you say, how is that? I mean, for example, if you teach me how to make $1 million more this year, I don't care whether you tell me I'm a piece of shit, to be honest. What does that have to do with anything else? Now, I wouldn't appreciate that, but if tomorrow Dan Ken tells me that I'm an idiot, which by the way he's already told me, how does that change that Dan Kennedy can teach? You see, but they don't care. So whether you have clients or students or patients, they will go away as soon as they perceive that you have disrespected them in whatever way their crazy mind, made them believe you have, or as soon as they don't feel appreciated, worshipped, they don't have their place in the sun, they don't have appreciation, they don't have the moment in the sun anymore in the Facebook group, or sometimes somebody else is seducing them with offers that you give them credit they will not accept because you believe they're smart, but they're not, and so they will, and so you have to, it's an old mess. So one thing you have to know is that value is not the reason they stick with you. I've had cases of students that have made a crap of money, like literally ridiculous money. Ridiculous money, not in absolute terms, like maybe they have made, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 500 grand to date. First of all, that's a lot of money, I believe, for everybody, but they were broke. People that left their jobs, people that had day jobs, people and they don't care, right? People tend to rewrite the story, remember that, in order to diminish the responsibility. So they say, it's not really, I've had cases in which people say, no, Big Luca doesn't know anything. I'm like, I got recordings, but they don't care. And so if you place right now, for example, learning that in the US market, I am approaching the European market in a complete different way. While in the US market, for example, I expected actually to be thanked. I was like, well, you make me money, I will thank you. How about that? It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't work that way. So, and the value that I am providing, I am creating much more of an experience. So now I will have an inner circle. I can do the same thing in the US market. So this is coming. People will come to Dubai, will come to my house, which is a hotel. I'll probably actually relocating to this very hotel. It's incredibly expensive, but I believe it's the right thing to do. And so, if you have hang-ups about the value, whether you're a dentist or a cosmetic surgeon, you're a chiropractor, a normal expected value is okay. I will give you an example. $100,000 car are the same quality of $25,000 car. All you pay is the brand. So the rest to be quality. The car doesn't have to break down at the first corner. But other than that, don't dwell on results. And by the way, don't dwell on results ever, because people don't like it. People become resentful. One thing that I have created a little course about these things, but one thing that I have noticed is that the more results people get, the more results your students get, the more you have to pay attention, because they become resentful, because they feel inferior and they believe they will never be able to reciprocate. And this happens in families as well. They say, well, listen, this shit has taught me so much, and they know they were not able to do it by themselves. So they have to explain to themselves that you did something bad in order for them to justify that it's okay to leave you, and the results were not really up to you because you're a bad person, right? So this happens again. I used to be not sad about that, but even now when I see things like, oh, come on. But I'm treating it from a professional standpoint, from a money standpoint. You should really be wary of people. And by the way, be very wary of your biggest fan, because they will become, I'm telling you, your biggest haters most of the time. So you gotta pay attention. But all of that doesn't matter from an emotional standpoint, but you have to prepare yourself from a money standpoint. So that's it for today, guys. This is Big Luca. Go to biglucabigmoney.com. Get my Big Luca Academy. There's a course dedicated to these things. It's called Psychological Warfare. And keep hustling. And I don't know what else to say. Bye-bye.